Hey everyone, my name is Robin Wata.
And I'm Kes, and welcome to the Extra Season Podcast.
Period.
Yeah, period.
So, welcome to this podcast episode. Kes is such a dope human being and such a dope creative that how could I say no? You had to be on this podcast. It was a necessity. But we met a couple years ago, I want to say 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was when you helped me with an issue of Pacificus.
Yes.
And seriously, that was like my saving grace because I remember Penny was the one who actually connected us.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember if she like told me to text you or if she told you to text me.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember one of us reached out and I was like, please help me.
And I was like, this is my passion. I got you.
So Kes has a background in graphic design. And I kind of just brought her on board with Pacificus. And I just remember seeing your work and I was like, holy shit, this is what a magazine is supposed to look like. This is what it should, I don't know, like this is what I should be doing. And I was just so intrigued about your creative process. I want to learn all the ins and outs about what you do and how you're so effing brilliant. I just want to learn about everything. So I want you to kind of just introduce yourself to everybody who's tuning in and let us know how you kind of got into graphic design to begin with.
I mean, what a great intro, can I say? Like that's, I
should say more, honestly.
Am I on my throne yet? Is my crown on? Is it crooked? Just kidding.
Like, take it out. We're done.
Cut. Just kidding. No, but yeah. So started my career out in graphic design and honestly, it's evolved to so many different moving pieces. Mm-hmm. It was very quickly early on in my career that I was like, actually, there's depth to design. Like I was on a marketing team and things were moving so quickly. It was a small business.
So this was like adulthood that you started like piquing your interest within design.
Yeah. This was actually probably like, it was like my my mid to early 20s.
Cool.
But I ended up joining a marketing team and things were just moving so quickly. And I questioned a lot of things because in school they teach you like there's such an artistic and intentional approach to design. There's reasoning, there's psychology, there's all these things. Yeah. But then you get thrown into a marketing team and it's like.
And they don't give a shit.
No, they're like deliverables, sale,
they're like
email.
content.
I'm just like, I was like, wait, like where's the fun in this again? And
so what were you doing initially in marketing? Like if you weren't in graphic so
it was graphic design.
Oh, but you wanted to like dive in deeper.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
So the story is kind of interesting because my snotty ass literally was like putting up a riff with like the creative director at the studio that I was at. And I knew nothing given I was literally just like fresh out of college. And I was like, we were talking about the brand, this brand that I was working for. And I was like, I don't feel like there's a brand here. And he was like, what are you talking about? Of course there is. And I was like, okay, there's a logo, but like I'm pulling colors from images. I'm pulling fonts from whatever I think is beautiful, right? And so with that, I was like, I feel like there's not really a lot of creative consistency. Well, we ended up butting heads and I learned a lesson so quick because this guy obviously has years in the industry. He had built an agency in New York and I quickly respected him because he ended up telling me, no, like branding's not about just these elemental pieces, these visual element pieces. And I was like, wait, do I not know anything about branding?
You're like, really? Because I just chose this color palette for this brand. You're like, I worked so hard putting this color palette together.
No, truly, I was like, I was so confused. So I remember going home that day and I got onto my computer and I Googled like, what is branding? And I ended up finding articles and videos about how branding is like so much deeper than the creative aspect.
Yeah.
It has to do with the messaging. It has to do with like the emotional connection that a brand can actually make with their audience.
Yeah.
And that brand that I was working for at the time absolutely had that. So when I'm sitting there butting heads or like, speaking up to this.
He probably wanted to fire your ass so
He
bad.
probably
like,
wanted to light my hair on fire and then send me on my way. Honestly, my ass was out of that business so fast because of my mouth. I'm not even kidding you.
That's the Samoan in you, though.
Truly, I get my pride from my
You said you're a Leo? Are you
Leo.
a Leo? Okay, yeah. I'm a Libra.
I know. And so we think we're the best, which...
we are. You heard it here first, folks.
On the Extra Seasoned podcast. Yes.
No, I love that. And so something that I'm just curious about is now that you're further into your career, like, do you feel differently about how you treated that creative director? And how would you approach somebody who would come at you like that? Questioning your branding and all of these things now that you have years under your belt.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was humbled. I've told him before, and I feel like I should tell him again, but I just respect so much how he approached it. It evolved everything about my career. It took me from graphic designer from a 9 to 5, right? Yeah. And then my 5 to 9. So in my evenings, I would literally contract myself out to agencies in like Chicago and LA and New York so that I could just learn branding. They weren't glorified, beautiful jobs, but I got to learn design operations. I got to learn branding. I got to learn like so many different aspects of branding, and that's what I wanted. And so I ended up building my career extremely fast because of all of the work that I was putting in between my 9 to 5 and my 5 to 9. Yeah. And so, it evolves from graphic design to brand design very quickly.
That's just something that I love so much about you, because I don't know anybody who hustles as hard as you do.
No one ever will.
No one ever will. Like when I hear about all these things that you have going on, and I see you posting on your stories and like things that you have to get done in the day, I'm like, bitch, I like can't even make myself breakfast. And you have like a checklist of like life-changing things that need to happen each day. Yeah. But I just love that you kind of mentioned like, you were doing that on your 9 to 5, but your 5 to 9 is really where everything started to grow and develop. And I think that's such a good message for creatives, is because I feel the same way. Like I actually work a 9 to 5 in tech. And I'm like, I'm not super passionate about tech, but I mean, like, it's something that pays my bills. And I feel like things like this podcast, that magazine, these things. Yeah. It's like, as a creative, I needed to fill my cup in one way or another. And so it was kind of something that helped provide the means for me to do those things. But I just want to know, like, how do you juggle it all? Like, do you feel like you don't? Like, do you feel like it's...
I don't know. Like, no, I do feel like I feel very competent. I think that's like the right word, is like, I feel like any challenge that comes my way, I feel like I can find the solution. I can do it. I think it's the mindset more than it is like a routine or a tactic to really do the thing. But like, I will say I've watched a lot of people in my life cut corners or try to cut corners and be completely unsuccessful with it. And I think when I can see other people making those mistakes, or see how they're wasting time, and quote unquote wasting time, right? It's probably not a waste of time for them, but for me and my goals and like where I want to go, I learn from other people's experiences. I watch them failing. I watch them succeeding. And then I'm like, oh, does that work for me? Yeah. Can I do that? Or how can I implement that into my life? Right. So it's not a routine or a tactic that like honestly helps me to get into the grind or hustle. I just know that hard work will pay itself off. Yeah. And so I don't want to cut corners. And that means sometimes me immersing myself in an uncomfortable situation in order to get shit done. And so, I don't believe in lazy work. I just don't.
Well, no, it's so funny. Like, as you're talking about that, I kind of reflect about like my own experience, and I felt like I saw so many people cut corners and still find success. And that like pissed me off. And so,
tell me about that.
Yeah. Like when I would see people like who weren't as bright or weren't as business savvy or weren't as empathetic to people they were working with and different things like that, like make it. And I'm saying like make it, and that's like very, obviously that can vary in a lot of different fields, but I'm just saying like, you're making more money than me. You have like more time on your hands to go do this, and this, yet you're a dumbass. And I don't know how I got here and how you got there.
Well, okay. Can I ask you a question? Yeah. So like,
I'm like, no.
Don't ask me. This is the less seasoned podcast when you ask me questions. Excuse me. So what I feel like it comes down to this question, and I'm gonna ask you, but like what defines success for you?
Ooh, I think success for me is people doing what they love and like taking care of your family at the end of the day. Like that is success to me.
Yeah.
When you're able to do something that you're passionate about and you're able to provide the means for the people who are around you, who are most important to you.
Yeah.
That is how I define success.
So are you in success?
Yeah, I feel like right now, like, but I don't know if this is like a selfish thing because I don't feel like I'm ever satisfied. Like I feel like I'm such a busybody in the sense that yes, I do a lot, but I want more. And I want more of it. And I don't think that I'll ever be like content to the point where I don't want to have that 5 to 9.
Yeah.
Or like I don't want to have to work my ass off for this, or this, because I feel like there's so much to learn and I want to learn it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to limit myself. Like, you know me as somebody who kind of dabbles in fashion. Like I've been a freelance stylist for almost a decade now since I got home from my mission in like 2015. But like transitioning into somebody who published a magazine was not in like my 5-year plan. It was not in the scope of things that I was comfortable with, but I saw a need for our community and I was like, I need to do it. I don't think I want to wait for anybody else to do it. So I'm going to do it. And that kind of just turns into this podcast where I was like, my magazine, like Pacificus, and you saw it, it was like such a beautiful testament to what our people are able to create. And I was like, I need to turn that up. Like, I need to turn the heat up. And so that's kind of where this podcast came about. Again, probably not in my scope of things that I thought I would be doing, but it's something I wanted to learn about. It's something I wanted to invest in. So I'm doing it.
So see, like, I think success is so subjective to the individual.
Yeah.
So you're gaining all of this experience in a bunch of different arenas. I don't want to compare us because we are different and our success looks different, right? But I feel like it's one of those things that we're all just perceived so differently in this world by every individual out there. You have a different perception from me than what Penny has for me, right?
Like, or even how you probably view yourself as well.
Yes, and how I view myself even. And so it's like when it comes down to success, I don't think that there's like one way to define success. For some people, it's financial. For some people, it's multitasking. And I think that it's so cool that you can bounce around in all of these different creative aspects. I would fucking die. I would die if my brain had to go all these different directions.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not, one thing I know about myself, I am not a good multitasker.
Yeah.
So to see you thrive in this setting and to see you love it.
I don't know if I would say thrive.
Stop it. You defined success as like doing the things that you're passionate about. And if right now you feel passionate about this, but next week you feel passionate about something else, so freaking be it.
Yeah.
You're literally following your passion. You're following where you are meant to just go.
Don't be surprised if this is the last podcast episode because my passions might change.
Period. Okay.
Kes is opening my mind.
We are going to end this podcast on the greatest.
On the greatest guest that's ever been on.
I'm done.
This is the only episode I release. It's just this one.
Like,
and remember how I told you I was going to start a podcast? Well,
here's your episode. That's it.
Well, what's funny is that I know that both of you, like both you and I, we both dabble into human design.
Yes.
And so what's funny is that I'm going to, like on the podcast, I talk about human design
a little bit. Are you a freaking manifesting generator?
I am a manifesting generator.
Stop. I could smell it from a mile away. I truly. Okay.
What are you?
I'm a generator.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I know like a lot of people don't know what that is, but I mean, for me, it's kind of just fulfilling your purpose and finding how you can align yourself with your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of just curious, like, how do you use that and what other tools do you use to make sure that you stay in alignment of your purpose?
Yeah. Human design is like, I probably took the last year really like deep diving into it. So for the analytical brains, I guess I can explain a little bit about what human design is, but it is a belief system that is created between I Ching, which is the chakra system that you find in like the yoga setting.
Yeah.
What is it? Astrology and the Myers-Briggs, which is psychology. So you're bringing a lot of psychological and spiritual together to create this system, which is human design. The only difference is that there's one new energy center in the chakra system, and it's because humans have kind of developed themselves into a more advanced species to where they now have like this emotional intelligence to them. So that is the solar plexus is the new energy center. And human design is actually really beautiful because everyone fits within the human design system. And one thing that it has taught me is that a lot of the things that I saw as weaknesses are actually my strengths.
Yeah.
So when I stopped suppressing what I thought were these like weaknesses and I started using them as like individual powers, I like leaned into it and really have never looked back. I've never looked at myself differently.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I've really adopted. It really is just a system that has complemented my life because it told me things that, one, I either already knew, or two, taught me how to like channel energy physically in my body.
Yeah, because it's not telling you to like change yourself.
No.
It's like, it really is like how to lean into those things.
Yeah.
And like kind of similar to you, like I'm one of those people that has to speak up.
Yeah.
Like I
Feel that.
I ruffle feathers and I'm not afraid to ruffle feathers. Like if you're like annoyed about my questions, I'm annoyed that you don't know the answers to my questions.
Or that you feel timid to not speak your truth.
Yeah. And I'm like, for me, it's such a cool thing to kind of dive into because again, like all of us fit into this human design. Like all of us have something innate within our being that like tells us how we can be like the best contributions in the world, you know? And so I'm just curious, like, what are some other belief systems that you have outside of human design that you feel help you professionally as a graphic designer?
I feel like, well, how do I answer this? My parents may be watching. Right?
Hi,
I'm
Mom
like,
and Dad.
Mom, Dad, I love you. I'm sorry if I'm saying something that's going to offend you.
Just don't share the episode with them.
Yeah,
Just be like, I was never on a podcast.
I don't know. It never
what
released. No, what's interesting, so I grew up Mormon. I grew up LDS. Okay. And that was I was a Christian for a long time. I still feel like in a sense I'm very Christian. My values are still very in alignment with that. But to be honest, I feel like when it comes to belief systems as a whole, I kind of just learn about everything. I'm curious about the topic.
Yeah.
Like I remember being in like junior high and high school and like loving world organizations and like religion. Like you talked about religions and different spiritualities and whatever. But I feel like I've always been curious about it. And that curiosity has kind of opened my mind to listen to like all the different belief systems, whether it's spiritual, whether it's religious, and not adopt anything, not claim anything, but just listen and see what resonates with me and then just leave behind the rest that doesn't, you know?
No, that makes sense. And so, I mean, with that being said, I mean, like, do you still practice Mormonism? Are you still like an active member?
No.
Okay. That's okay.
No, honestly, there's no reason. It started out with kind of some laziness, like got married to my wonderful husband and we just were in a honeymoon phase where we were just experiencing this new life that we built together, that we just joined and now we're building together, right? And we just wanted to spend all the time together. And I feel like it just kind of got pushed to the back of my mind. And gosh, where to take this conversation? But I basically, I have no beef with the LDS religion because in so many ways it shows up for my family in the way that it needs to.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel like my conversations with God have always been so important to me. I still call God God. I still pray and I still talk with God frequently. Our conversations are less reverent than what I was brought up to assume. I remember the first time I spoke to God so casually.
Yeah.
Do you remember? I don't know.
Do I remember?
Do you talk to God casually?
So that's like a funny thing because I feel like within Mormon religion, like we're taught specifically to be like very reverent and to be, but I feel like for me, I've tried to talk to him as a friend, as like a peer, as somebody who not above me, but like beside me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like it definitely changes your perspective about things because I'm I feel like that's how he wants me to talk to him.
Yes. Right?
But maybe I'm wrong. If you disagree, I really don't care.
But even like the way that I talk to my parents, I'm so casual with them. I'm friendly. I'm just the way that I am, right? Like I'm not going to suppress me for him. Like if he knows me to my core, then I'm not going to.
I don't need a fake being reverent.
He knows this. He knows this. He knows this.
He knows your human design. He knows you're built different.
He knows we are built differently. Okay. So let me take you back to this story because I think this is so freaking hilarious. So when I was in junior high school, I lost a textbook that was like $60. Okay. At the time, for me and my family, that was a lot of...
Girl, I would have been beat the fuck up.
That's what I'm saying.
For $60.
For $60. I was like, okay, so I just remember it being like a week and I was like, I couldn't find this textbook. And it came to the point where like, if I couldn't find it, I couldn't do my homework. And if I couldn't do my homework, I would fail.
Yeah.
So I just remember like frantically one day, they served me with this paper saying, you're going to owe $60 if you don't bring back this book. And all I kept thinking was like, I am going to get in so much trouble. And I would do anything to avoid getting in trouble when I was a kid because Polynesian parents, right? Like, do I need to say
Wait, are you the oldest in your family?
Yes.
Okay, that's probably why. That's probably why you care.
So I carried the boat for the sibs. You're welcome. But okay, so I remember going home and I remember thinking like it has to be in this house, right? So I'm frantically looking. I remember looking for it was probably over an hour, but I'm sobbing. I'm 12. I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm hormonal.
I was thinking you're like in high school about to graduate or something.
No, I'm junior high school, so I have like these glasses on. I'm kind of thick, you know what I mean? I was like, okay, girl. So I remember just like falling to my knees. I'm in the living room downstairs. I remember falling to my knees, and I just remember like putting my head on the ground, like on the carpeted ground, and I just said to God, I was like, God, it's me. Like I just remember being like,
listen up.
Yeah. I was like, God, it's me. Like, I don't deserve this. Like, I really don't. I'm a good person. I'm a good student. I'm a good friend. I'm a good daughter. I'm a good this, right? Yeah. And I just remember being like, please, I know you're there. Like, will you please just help me find my textbook? Yeah. Like, that's all I need, okay? I remember getting up from that and just thinking like, okay, I just got to put the faith in him, okay? Next day, I go to school. I'm literally walking down the hall to like one of my later class periods. And I'm walking by a friend's locker and she stops me and she goes, Kesia. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, your textbook is in my locker. And you know that moment in the best 2 years where it's like the phone rings and it's like, hallelujah. Yeah, that was me. I was like mid hallway, junior high, the most disgusting and annoying place on earth. And I was just like, oh Lord.
Like, I was there.
Like, he's there. I could hear the carol sing. You know what I mean? Like, that was the first time I talked to God. And then in that moment where I was standing there just like looking up for a second, I was like, you're the realest. Like, you're the realest. Ever since, I've never talked reverently to God. Like, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and swear up a storm sometimes, but I won't swear up a storm in conversation with God. But it was, anyways, I don't know why we went down that rabbit hole, but here we are.
I'm actually so intrigued because I think that stories like this kind of make up who we are as human beings and who we are as creatives. Yeah. Like a lot of times people will ask you like, oh, how did you get into graphic design? Or like, how did I get into fashion? But I'm like, there's so many little things that like occurred in our childhoods or our upbringing that kind of instilled this work ethic or this mindset that I can start an effing podcast if I want to start a podcast, or you can start a branding company if you want to start one, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just love hearing things about this because a lot of times people just want to talk about that surface level stuff that I can put on a resume, but they don't know the grit or they don't know about these crazier experiences that happened, you know? And I just love that we're kind of diving into this spirituality aspect of it because I feel like that's something that I've kind of like struggled with is that people try to tell me how my relationship with God is supposed to be or how I'm supposed to conform to, I don't know, just like the LDS standards of what that looks like. But I'm like, that's not my relationship with him. And I think that's fine.
Yeah.
And I think people get confused when I say things like that. And I'm so glad that we're like
in alignment with that. Yeah. But also like there's a freedom aspect to it, right? Like the way that I was raised was fairly strict. It was very strict. I shouldn't say fairly. Like it was very like to the T. And that's the way that my dad was raised. My mom's a convert, but that integration of strictness with religion and with how we're supposed to meet certain milestones within the church, like that was meant very seriously, very seriously. So then to come out of it and be so casual with conversation with God and to just have this kind of like openness to be, to have like individual thoughts.
Yeah.
It's unique. I think there's a liberty that we feel.
Yeah,
like
I agree. I feel like, again, just kind of like echoing what you said, based on how we're raised and like the people that we've surrounded ourselves with, it kind of just changes these things. And again, like the belief systems that we're talking about, like human design is something that I probably wouldn't have looked into if I wasn't a curious person that wanted to learn more about myself, you know? But I just love conversations like this because like I said, I just feel like this is where the good stuff is. This is where people are going to be like, oh shit. They probably didn't think this conversation was going to lead there either. No. Shit, it wasn't on my iPad notes either. But here we are.
Welcome. Just kidding. So wait, like where are you? Where are you religiously and spiritually, I should say? Because sometimes it's not always.
I'm actually glad that you brought this up because I'm still a practicing LDS member.
Okay.
But I feel like I go against the grain in so many aspects, but I feel like I'm supposed to. Like, I feel like this is my purpose is to ask the right questions, again, ruffle some feathers and get people thinking about the bigger picture. Because I think there's so many things to unpack in Mormon culture, not necessarily Mormon doctrine and gospel. Like, obviously, there's a lot to unpack there too. Yeah. But when we're looking at it as like an organization, I get riled up about things. Yeah. And I feel like it rubs people the wrong way, but I'm like, again, it comes down to, I believe that God made me this way because he wants me to be that bitch. And if I have to be that bitch in this aspect, so be it. You know what I mean?
You're gonna get to heaven. They're gonna open the scroll and be like, "Oh, that bitch. Oh, welcome. You get in. Yeah, they're like, welcome. We've been waiting for you. You know."
But like, I know it probably like people listening to this will probably be like, "That is like such an oxymoron. Like you can't do that." But I'm like, I disagree.
No, but you know what's interesting? Like so many people, I think when they leave the church, and this is my experience with Utah culture, right? Is like you have to make this dramatic
exit.
It truly is, like whether it's like getting a tattoo on your body or reclaiming that you're, drinking alcohol or something like that. Like, and sometimes it's just like going down the furthest rabbit hole that you possibly can in anti-literature. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know how healthy or unhealthy it is, but truly the one excuse that I hear the most is like, it has to do with the people. Yeah. It's the people or it's the doctrine, right? And I think from your perspective, it's so cool to hear that like, you feel a calling in a sense to kind of go against the grain because I think people sometimes need to be put in their place. Yeah. I'm not even kidding. I have nothing bad to say about the LDS religion at all, but I have so much to say about individuals that made that experience just hell. Yeah. And so it's like, I didn't have a voice to be able to like do that at the time. And so to see someone being a little bit more proactive about it, it's like, you're not going against God and you're going to have a great relationship with God if you try, but it's like, it's not for the purpose of, I don't know, like causing a stir necessarily. I don't know. Yeah. I don't want to speak for you either.
No, I mean, like, I feel like it is what it is. And so again, I feel like this is just a cool conversation. Yeah. Like we started with graphic design, went to human design. Truly. Now we're talking about like Mormonism as a whole, but
where are we going next?
This kind of just reminds me about like wanting to learn a little bit more about your upbringing. So you said that you're the oldest child. Yeah. Your dad's Samoan. Yeah. Your mom's white. Mm-hmm. So being half Hafakasi, I guess. How do you feel like that's had like an impact on like your work ethic, or do you feel like you get that mostly from your dad, or do you feel like your mom has been like the most supportive in that role?
I mean, okay, we're talking skin color, we're talking background, we're talking culture. I get the best of both worlds. Yeah. Like I truly get the best. I love dogs. You know how white that is? I love coffee.
Is the most white
you know
thing,
how white
honestly.
that is? You know what I mean? You know how American it is to be so immersed in my career at 29 years old on Sunday, and I'm like, where's the family? Where are the babies? I'm in the middle of Utah culture, right? Yeah. But then on the other side of things, I get this sense of pride and this sense of like animation to myself, this energy from like my Polynesian side, and this sense of culture and deep, immense love for like people, right? So it's like, I honestly get the best of both worlds from my parents. My parents actually we have a blended family. So both my parents were married previously and have their own kids.
I don't think I've ever known that.
Right? So I'm the first with my parents together. So I was like the middle child / the older child. So when I look at the memes, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get both. Like I truly do. And so yeah. And then I have 2 younger sisters.
Dang. Yeah. I didn't know that you were like the oldest in this set.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many of us.
Always learning new things.
Always learning.
So I'm curious, like with your cultural background, like, do you feel like it had an impact on your professional career? Like, do you feel like it was difficult going into graphic design, or like telling your parents, like, this is what I want to study. This is what I want to do professionally.
Interesting. I don't think anyone ever made it difficult for me to
was your dad raised in the U.S.?
No, he's an immigrant.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I was just curious because I had like other guests on this podcast. Yeah. And so we were kind of talking about how like our parents weren't like the most excited when we told them like, hey, like, I want to go to school for this. Or like, I want to go into like photography, or I want to do this. And like, they're like, this is not what we moved across.
This is not your American dream. What are you talking
like,
about?
What about my American dream? And like, I feel like sometimes they want us to kind of like live up to those standards of what their American dream is. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's so interesting. That's why I was curious.
Yeah, no, like I don't think much of like my family honestly influenced my career path. But I will say, just being half Samoan and half white, it was interesting navigating social settings. And that built resilience in me. That really built resilience in me because have you seen that Key and Peele skit?
Which one?
Where he's like, I'm going to get thrown around if I even try to the internet is going to swallow me whole.
They're going to be like, did you guys see that podcast of Cass trying to imitate that Key and Peele skit?
Okay,
it's going to be a soundbite.
Key and Peele, they are 2 half black, half white men, okay? They're comedians. They're hilarious. Go watch the episode because I won't go into it.
Yeah, we'll find it.
Okay, cool. So it's the skit. It's a skit. It's like very MTV. It's a skit about navigating his blackness. Yeah. So he's on a date with this white girl, and she's like, "This is your time to be more black." And so he's like, he gets up and he's like so stereotypical. Okay. So, anyways, the point I'm trying to get at, because I don't want to go any further, is that navigating being half Samoan and half white was weird because I looked Asian. So truly, I'm not even kidding you.
They're like, this is one thick Korean girl in our elementary school.
No, really, like, so like, I'm not gonna lie, okay? And I feel like the more that I talk about this, the more Afakasis come forward and they're like, it is true. And I'm like, my people, okay? So when you're in a Polynesian setting, okay, it's like, the white girl, you know, the little white girl. But when you're in a white setting, they're like, oh, you're Polynesian?
Yeah, you're something. You're a mix of something.
When they found out I was Polynesian, they were like, where? Yeah. Like, where are you Polynesian? You know? People always assumed I was Asian. I do have a little bit of Asian in me. But regardless, navigating the social setting, like I went through phases, you know, like when you get to junior high and high school, there's like those cliques and you're like trying to figure out who you are, where you fit in. Like I would find myself in situations where I'm like, am I with the Polynesians? I was like, no, I'm with the Mexicans. Oh, wait. That's like I'm trying to navigate it was so interesting. I just
talked about this where like I felt like I hung out with different cliques of people. Yeah. And it wasn't like, I don't know, like it wasn't anything personal. It was just like I vibed with different people from different settings. And so it wasn't uncommon to see me like with the poly kids at school, but then see me with the emo kids, and then see me with the Latino kids, like waiting by the bus stop. Like it just wasn't uncommon for me.
So wait, would you call yourself like a floater in high school?
Yeah, I was 1,000,000% a floater.
100% a floater. Seriously, like there was hardly any people that I really got close with, and the people that I got close with also have their friends, like that they were even more closer with, right?
Yeah.
Floaters.
Yep.
We were floaters.
Got it.
Yeah. I don't know why we went
floaters
there.
Or loners. You choose.
Stop. I literally was just talking to a high school friend recently. She reached out. We haven't spoken in years, but we went down the rabbit hole of spirituality and like finding ourselves, right? And one thing that we talked about, she brought up high school, and she was like, Kesia, you were so confident. You had so many friends.
I feel like I have friends who would say that about me too.
Yeah.
And like, or friends who would be like, you were popular. And I was like, I don't think I was popular.
Yeah, truly. I told her, I was like, that's interesting to see that perception, because at that time, I actually felt like I was the loneliest in my life.
Interesting.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Like I was surrounded by so many people, yet I felt so lost. And I felt like, I mean, who's supposed to find themselves in high school, truly? Yeah. But I didn't feel like I had loyal friends. And I had friendship wounds going into like my adulthood. And so it carried on with me in adulthood, where like I would make friends, but then I would be quick to like, but it doesn't mean anything. When people say like, oh, we're best friends, I was like, oh.
Don't know what that means.
Girl, I don't know. You know, like I would instantly distance myself. So it's interesting. Do you find yourself in that same situation right now where you're like surrounded by a lot of people and you're floating around kind of like?
No, because I feel like because I felt like that in high school, I was very selective about who I brought into my circle as an adult. And I prefer to keep it that way.
You're like the brown Tongan version of me, and I'm the Asian white version of you. Like
I'm very selective. Like I have a very small circle of friends that I like genuinely can open up to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think I think it's cool, because I feel like it kind of just circles back to what you were talking about. It's that even that perception of who we are is subjective, like, because I would view myself differently of how I was in high school or how I am now.
Yeah.
And I think people try to put me in this box of, oh, you were a popular kid, or like, you can't do this, or maybe you can't do that. But I'm like, I feel like I just break the rules, because that's the part of the manifesting generator. Yes. That's part of who I am.
Exactly. You're a square and you're not going to fit in anyone's circle.
I'm like, F that.
Yeah, truly. Truly.
But I kind of just want to take like a hard left pivot and kind of just go back to your graphic design, because I'm just curious, like, you own like your own company now, like basically an agency that helps people and small businesses with their branding. And I just want to know, how would you describe your aesthetic?
Oh my gosh.
As a graphic designer.
Yeah.
Do you have an aesthetic? Or is it ever evolving? Well, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, like I'm learning it, I think right now. Like as I'm learning about myself, I can start identifying with little pieces, like adjectives that I use in people's branding process.
So this is cool. So it's not solidified. It's like still something that is a process.
Oh my gosh. And I feel like it always should be.
Yeah.
Even in business, even in like personal identity, like we're ever evolving people. And like if you take a look at businesses and markets and marketing and sales, it's like it's constantly evolving, right? Like capitalism in the 1900s is not the same that it used to be, or is the same that it is now, right? So it's like I feel like brand identity, or just identities or design as a whole, aesthetics as a whole, should be dynamic. I think to our core, we can understand our personalities, like who we are. What are the things that describe us, right? Like, am I more minimal, or am I more decorative and like ornate? Am I more formal, or am I more like super non-traditional, right? Like there's these contrasts. And what I teach in the branding process, and what I honestly teach in life now, anytime I get the chance, is that there are two contrasting systems always. And it is your job to find where you are in the middle. There's never going to be a far one way, far the other way, right? I'm not talking politically, because I know we're in a freaking election year.
They're gonna take this clip and they're gonna be like,
look at what she said, you know? But like, but I do believe that like this all comes back to design and how to navigate the depths of design, because so many people will take a generic aesthetic and be like, and label yourself. And they're like, I guess I'm bold, but it's like, no, I think I'm bold, Robin, but like you're bolder. Does that make sense? No, yeah. No, okay, let's take personality, approach, actions or how we take things. Like you said, you're very open, I can talk about this. I'm not afraid to refrain what comes out of my mouth, right?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more conservative in how I approach conversation with someone else.
Yeah.
So I can't be that bold. I'm confident, but I can't be that bold to where I'm like, Well,
what's funny is that's kind of part of the reason why I named this the Extra Seasoned podcast.
Okay.
Because I feel like people, again, try to always put me in this mold, and they're always just like, oh, we got a little sprinkle of something, they're like, whatever that is. And I'm like, yeah, whatever that is. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what makes me who I am,
Yeah.
That extra seasoned part that people tend to crack jokes about or whatever. I'm like, but it got me here. So eat that, motherfucker.
Period. On the Extra Season podcast. You know what I mean? And that's truly identifiable to you. That is so unique to you.
Yeah.
Your story. All of it. So back to the branding conversation. When I graduated high school, I turned in my final and I was days before I was going to get married. So think this, okay? I'm about to get married. And then also I was like, and last final, get this shit out of here. I'm done. I want to go into the professional field. The director of the program stops me and she says, have you ever thought about going into advertising? I was so pissed. I was so pissed because I just spent how many years getting a degree in graphic design, and now you're telling me I should go to advertising. I didn't want to go back to school at all, right? And so
But were you upset because she planted the seed and it was like, why would
I'm
you?
like, fuck, that's potential. I have potential.
You're like, you just sparked the curiosity in me.
Yes. So here, I think it's funny, the evolution between the graphic design and the branding, because branding is actually a form of advertising.
Yeah.
And although branding is on a very soft level, branding goes into the depths of storytelling and the depths of understanding your target audience and understanding the competitive advantage that businesses get to have. And so I'm combining two worlds. One is very analytical and logistical, and the other one is so creative.
Yeah.
So truly I manifested this in my life because I have felt the knack for both, and not just because my teacher told me so. I truly have always felt called logistically, and I always was curious to how it was going to play. And it manifested itself into brand. And it's the thing that I feel literally probably most proud of in my life, because within a year, it has transitioned into exactly what I needed it to be. And exactly not what it's it has nothing to even do with me at this point. I just feel like brand is this vessel of opportunity to help others gain clarity.
Yeah.
And so I truly...
And you're so good at it.
Thank you.
I just feel like every time I see you posting on your Instagram about clients or people that you're helping, you just share so much insight and these little things. They're not even big things, but they're things that even made me reconsider how I was approaching this podcast or how I wanted to brand myself for this podcast. And so I know you're kind of working on this series basically for kind of educating people about branding and brand identity. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Are you talking about the Brand Lab?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I literally I've been working 12-hour days all week because I didn't get pulled into. I am so fortunate to be speaking at a private event for female entrepreneurs tomorrow. And I looked at my marketing girl and I was like, I have to launch the Brand Lab there. So my ass busting 12-hour days today. Today alone, I've recorded 14 videos. I think you saw it on my story.
I saw it on your story, and that's why I was like, and she still showed up for this podcast.
I was like, and tomorrow I have to speak.
What the hell did you do today? Huh?
Tomorrow I have to speak, and then literally I'm just going to, my voice is going to be gone. I can feel it. We've just been talking to the camera. I've been talking to you. I've been talking. Okay, anyways. Okay, so the Brand Lab. So the Brand Lab it's going to be an opportunity where female entrepreneurs can come into a private space and surrounded by other female entrepreneurs, they're going to have the ability to DIY their brand. I don't think anything like this has ever been created.
I haven't heard of one.
Right?
That sounds cool.
I'm making it extremely affordable because one thing that I think is just an absolute joke in brand strategy is that it's only for the middle-sized business, the ones that have already proven their concept. And although that is very smart in business to prove your concept and then to make it launch, where I see people getting stuck is that they're in the small business phase and they don't know how to
like get to that next level or like break that threshold.
Yes. And then you have brand strategists out here being like, well, it's $4,000 in my pocket for 2 days. And you're like, bro, what? Like, what are you going to give me? And then you look at the deck and you're like, that's it?
Yeah. So I've seen that. I've definitely shopped around to see.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So the goal is to honestly connect females to their desires. I believe in desire-based marketing, desire-based approach to business where you're not just trying to fit the mold. You're really trying to do things based on what you feel is going to be the most impactful. So bringing women into this community to DIY their brand, it's hosted on a platform called School, and there's a gamified aspect to it. So you're going to get in there, you're going to introduce yourself, and you actually have to gain points in the system to level up.
Oh, that's cool.
And as you level up, you're going to gain access to certain labs, and everything is meant to be in chronological order. So it literally is like a game for your business.
Yeah.
So you're going to enter the community and you're going to level up, introduce yourself, and then you're going to go into a 5-day mindset and reflection retreat for yourself, right? Yeah. So we start out by asking kind of difficult questions. Like, that's the truth. That's what brand strategists do. They come in, they ask you really hard questions, and then they do research and then give you a deck and say, okay, well, good luck.
This is it.
Yeah, exactly. So the intention is that you get exposed to strategy first, or you get exposed to the mindset and reflection first, where you are understanding your why, you're understanding your purpose, you're reflecting on why you even started this path in the first place.
Yeah.
After 5 days and leveling up again within the community, you'll get access to a strategy lab where you're going through your own version of a target market a target audience analysis, a competitive analysis, very logistical business logistics, right? Then you're going to get exposed to the core lab, which is defining like your purpose, your vision, your core values. And then you're going to move on to the next level, which is your brand essence. You're going to define the personality traits that we just talked about, like what makes you absolutely unique, like creatively, how you express yourself. That's like more art direction. So that's probably like what you would be most into, right?
Yeah.
And then you go into an identity lab where I teach you everything that it takes to create an impactful logo, color palette, font system, etc. Anyways, beyond that, it's so much about nurturing that mindset that we just started with. I'm giving all the strategy up front so that in the last half of it, you just feel absolutely supported and nurtured by the community and by me. So
I feel like just you talking about it, I'm like, how do you even put shit like that together? You know? And it's like, where do you start?
Yeah.
12-hour days. That's where you start.
12-hour days. Your teacher telling you that you're meant to be in ads program. No.
No, but I just like, again, this is just like a testament to literally the grind that I've always seen you be like beyond, like from the get-go, like since we've met in like 2022. I just feel like there's never been a dull moment where I haven't just like clicked on your profile or something and you're just like not doing something dope. And so I just remember what's funny is like when I was like writing down potential guests for this podcast, I was like, I wonder if like Kes would be interested in it. And I just remember posting about it and you messaged me on Instagram and you didn't even message me about like coming onto the podcast, but I was like, this is it. Kes is intrigued. This is
I think I was like, that's so freaking dope.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
I was like, Kes is intrigued. Now's my time to ask. And I was like, that was the manifesting generator in me because I was already like mentally taking note of like some people I wanted to bring on. So I'm just like, again, just super thankful that you even took the time. I know that you are probably one of the busiest people I know, but taking an hour out of your day from your 12-hour day that you probably already had to come on, it means a lot. And
well, you know, like this is the reason that I reached out to you about this, to like really hype you on about this, is because you have you carry yourself differently than the way that I see other people carry themselves. Like, you have a confidence to you. You're a go-getter. I feel that for you. You're not afraid to pivot. And I think so many people live in fear, live in scarcity. And I especially, and I don't know why, I especially see it in our culture where like people are just afraid. I'm like, why are we afraid?
Yeah.
Fear's not even real. Like it's all made up in our head based on thoughts that haven't even transpired, you know? But I see you doing like all of these different things, and I'm like,
P.S. I'm still terrified. I'm not comfortable in front of a camera. I always get nervous about like my interviewing skills because I feel like there's so much to learn still. But that is, again, it's like piquing my interest even more, where I'm like, where is this podcast going to take me? What opportunities is it going to bring? And I feel like the opportunities and that curiosity, I feel like we've been talking a lot about that, like the curiosity that kind of propels us forward as creatives, like that outweighs the fear aspect of it. Because I feel like this is going to open more doors than anything else. But I feel like you and I have both taken advantage of opportunities that have presented themselves. We've also been really good at busting some doors down that just weren't willing to open up for us. But again, you're just that Asian looking Samoan girl. You're just that kindred spirit that I needed to bring onto this podcast. And I'm just so grateful for you.
I'm grateful.
And so everybody just watch this space, because Kes is doing the damn thing, and make sure you tune in to Braaand, her business.
3 A's.
Yes, 3 A's, Braand. And make sure you guys get ready for the Braaand Labs. And I can't wait for everybody to learn more about you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Love you long time.
Love you long time.